Hello and welcome back to the TMDSAS podcast. I'm your host, Enrique Hasso, the Coordinator of Research, Advising Services, and Digital Media at the TMDSAS office in Austin, Texas. We are very excited to start this new series where we will be going over a roadmap for all of our pre-health students out there who have no idea where to start or who really want some guidance on what they need to do every year of their education leading up to the application. And so here to help us kick off that initiative is Dr. Scott Wright, the Executive Director of the Texas Health Education Service, which includes TMDSAS, JAMP, the Texas Health Education Research Center, and the Texas Health Education Advising Network. Dr. Wright, thank you so much for coming back to the podcast.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm sure everybody else is excited as well because your episodes are among the top listened episodes of the podcast.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So we're sure to be in for a great treat, and all of our listeners will have a lot of great takeaways from this. So
good.
Today we're going to be talking about freshmen or first years and kind of talking through the entire transition from high school to college and starting to think about their career as a doctor, as a dentist, or a veterinarian. And so it's essentially starting with the application and working our way backwards to essentially square one.
Right.
Yeah. And so what are like your initial points that you want students to take away?
Yeah, good. Well, again, I'm super excited to be here today and to talk to you and the pre-health students that listen to these podcasts. And let me just say, as an aside, very thankful for you, Enrique, for all the work that you do with these podcasts, and your efforts are well appreciated.
Well, thank you.
By a lot of different kinds of people. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Don't get the big head now.
No, we're probably going to edit this out.
All right. So I have, for many years, thought a lot about first-year college students and about what they do, what they think, how the first year goes for them, the anxiety that happens in their first year and on the college campus, et cetera. So I think I have some things to offer that'll be helpful to students and to their thought processes, and so I think initially my thought is that a freshman has to consider that the application that they do during in preparation for medical school or dental school or veterinary school, that they don't start filling out that application when they're in the summer between their junior and senior year, or in their senior year. They start filling out that application the second they walk on that college campus. Mm-hmm. That everything they do, everything they're about, their activities, their courses, it all is going to be a part of that application. So that number one thing is that as a freshman, you have to think about the fact that you are building your application almost immediately. So if you'll have that concept, that'll be very important. And there's obviously a number of different areas, and I think we're going to talk about some of these areas that they need to be thinking about these things in. But number one, consider that day one, freshman year, you're filling out that application.
Yep. That's a great point. A lot of people seem to undervalue their freshman year in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
But you're right. It's where all the groundwork
is. You're setting the tone from the very beginning about how things are going to go.
Awesome.
Yep.
So let's start with the first class day.
Yeah. I think academics, obviously, college is all about academics in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of things additional that college is about in terms of personal growth, in terms of social life and maturity and growing in a lot of different ways. But fundamentally, college is about classes. Mm-hmm. It's about learning. It's about growing and working out that muscle that we call the mind, the brain, and really investing yourself in that process. And so I would say, obviously you want to, as a freshman, you want to start off study skills wise, really setting a good tone. And I can tell you that over my years of experience, I know that for a fact, often what worked in high school for students is not going to work well in college.
Shocking.
I know you can't, and that's not to say anything bad about high school or your high school education. It is to say that college is a different thing. Mm-hmm. It's a different scale, if nothing else. And so I think what a student often has to do is to reevaluate their study skills, how they study, where they study, how long they study, who they study with. All these things have to be a part of an evaluative process to examine what's going to be best for the outcome, which the outcome obviously is you do well.
Right.
You make good grades and you learn. And I do want to emphasize one thing about that, and that is that making good grades and learning are not always the same thing. And this is an important point for students to grasp, because I think all of us, whether it's in high school or college or wherever, we can all identify a course or multiple courses where we made an A in the course, but we really didn't learn a whole lot.
Yeah.
That we walked out of that course at the end of the course and we thought, I don't really remember anything, or a month or two later we're like, I don't know what I learned in there. Mm-hmm. So what I want students to connect with is that the goal is not just doing well in the class in terms of your grade, but the goal is also learning. Yeah. And that takes effort. Mm-hmm. And it's a different type of effort than just making an A in the class. It takes engagement on a deeper level. It takes really focusing yourself in a way that is not just cramming before the night before the exam. Mm-hmm. It's about doing your homework and engaging with your homework. It's about reading and really engaging in the reading process. It's about paying attention in class, as opposed to Instagramming in class or doodling on your pad or whatever you do in class when you're bored. It's about engaging. And this is going to have consequences later on when you are really evaluating and preparing for the MCAT or the DAT or whatever entrance exam you're working toward. Because if you take your efforts in class about studying, let's say, for example, general chemistry. Okay, you made an A in general chemistry or organic chemistry or whatever, and you then get to the point where if you didn't learn deeply in your experience in that course, and that's a phrase I like to use, learning deeply, is that when you get to the point where you're studying for the MCAT and you get to the general chemistry section where you're studying for it, you may not remember a whole lot. Yeah. And you're having to redo the whole thing. Whereas if you learned deeply and really engaged in the class and did well in the class, then the chances are much more likely that you're going to connect with that material in a much quicker way. So just utilize your experiences in high school, but also develop new experiences, new study skills, new efforts, new ways of doing things, and engage in what you're doing and focus and learn deeply. And utilize the resources that are around you on your campus. Every campus has learning centers and tutors and supplemental instruction and all kinds of things that you can take advantage of. I mean, after all, you're paying for all that stuff with your tuition dollars. So, go for it. Exactly. Use those things because they're gonna, in many cases, make a difference in terms of how you're going to do in the coursework that you're involved in. So I would say, focus on academics. Certainly, begin by doing well, and learn deeply in those activities. And obviously, as a freshman, you're laying the groundwork for courses that are going to come later. So our recommendation always is, as a freshman, your first year, you got to be in general chemistry. If you're not planning on taking both semesters of general chemistry your freshman year, you're gonna hurt later. You're gonna be really off track. Now, some of this is going to depend on your campus policies and what they'll allow you to take, depending on courses that you've had previously in high school or how you did on the SAT, et cetera. Various factors that are going to affect that. But I would say at almost every institution that I'm aware of, you're going to be able to get into general chemistry as a freshman, and you need to do that. Now, some of you at your institutions, you may also be in biology, general biology during the freshman semester. But if nothing else, got to do general chemistry. Yep. So definitely.
Yeah, that sequence is extremely tight with the timing of the MCAT.
Yep, particularly with chemistry. Now that the MCAT tests biochemistry, you got to make it through Gen Chem before you get to OChem. You got to do OChem before you get to biochem.
Yep.
And if you're waiting until, for example, your sophomore year or second year to start general chemistry, you're going to be off. Yeah. And that's going to delay you in terms of your preparation for the MCAT or the DAT, and et cetera. And so the course sequencing, more so than anything else in chemistry, is vital. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I really like the term learning deeply.
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks volumes to a lot of students out there who are maybe planning their classes for the next semester, and they know which professor they'll get the easy A in.
Yes.
And they'll know which professor is going to a lot harder.
Going to challenge them. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, if you're using ratemyprofessor.com or whatever, and you're looking for that easy professor, this may not be the objective here.
Right.
I mean, maybe you'll be more likely to get an A if you have the easy professor, but is that really gonna? It really takes this sort of long-term vision. Mm-hmm. If you're totally, you're totally pursuing your academic career according to a short-term goal. I want to make an A in this class, as opposed to a long-term vision of what is going to get me to where I want to go, which is medical, dental, veterinary school. Got to see that long-term goal and that long-term vision about what you want to have happen. So absolutely.
Yeah. And that also speaks to the quality of, or the characteristic of lifelong learning.
Yes.
Are you intellectually curious enough to explore beyond?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're going into any of these healthcare careers, lifelong learning it's all about lifelong learning. Yeah. And you got to learn that early on. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on to our next point, we're talking about personal development.
Yeah. And this is another thing that, as I mentioned early on, that college is all about growing. As most experiences in life are, college is about growing. And so what I would say is you want to, we are all growing, whether we realize it or not, is the key. And so this is where I think the effort of thinking about the growth that's happening is really vital. This leads us to something that I feel strongly about, and I know you do as well, which is journaling about this type of thing. Yeah. And I will tell you that our next edition of Apply Magazine, which will come out February of 2019, is going to have a whole article, which you are writing, Enrique, about journaling and the value of it and some methods and stuff to do that. But personal development, growth is happening in your life. And so what I want you to be connecting with is being mindful of that. and recognizing what growth is occurring. And there's no better way, in my view, of doing that than journaling. And journaling can take on a variety of different ways of how that happens, but it is an effort to really connect with where are growth opportunities in my life, whether they're academic or social or personal or whatever. That's where we're all at, and we need to kind of reflect on that often. It's all about personal reflection. It's really connecting with what am I doing and why am I doing it and what am I learning from it.
Right.
So now this also has later implications when you get to the application.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're journaling, you're sort of really remembering things, and so you look back on that journal and you're able to say, oh wow, I forgot about that. You know, I remember that now. So I think connecting with that idea of what am I doing, why am I doing it, and what am I learning from it is really pretty cool and pretty crucial in this personal development kind of thing. And, you know, I think personal development doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just me. It is everything that's around me, external to me, that is affecting how I'm growing as a person, which is my social network, my family network, my professors, my advisors. And so what I think in terms of personal development, you want to, as a freshman, to begin to develop this network of people around you. There, as we've already mentioned, there's a lot of resources on every campus to help you do that. The faculty, obviously, but even you know, let's say you're in a large general chemistry class where you have, you know, a whole lot of people in there. So yeah, the professor's there, but there's 150 or 200 other people in the class. And it's difficult to, particularly for a freshman, to, you know, connect with that and to go to the professor's office hours or something. It takes a whole lot of guts to do that sometimes. And I get that. But when you're in the general chemistry lab, you're in a much smaller section, and there's a lab instructor. Connect with the lab instructor. Or in the course itself, connect with the various teaching assistants that are there. They can be part of your network. Maybe they're graduate students. Maybe they're, you know, whoever. Maybe it's a supplemental instruction, a peer that's doing supplemental instruction for you, or a tutor. Connect with these people. Learn from them what works for them. How are they experiencing college life, and grow from their experiences as well. So not just professors, faculty, but sub-faculty, what I would sort of call sub-faculty, teaching assistants and tutors and things like that. Peers, obviously. As a freshman, my suggestion is another person or people that you need to connect with very early on in the process is the pre-health advisor on your campus. Most campuses, whether it's a small campus or a huge campus, have people there specifically to advise you on your pathway of getting into medical school, dental school, veterinary school. You need to be connecting with them early on. If nothing else, you want them to know who you are. My name is Johnny. I'm a pre-med student. I want to connect with you. Now, early on, maybe you'll only see them once a semester, or maybe twice a semester. Having been a pre-health advisor in my past life, I can tell you that the students that engage in that way and really work to develop relationships are the ones that I enjoy working with the most. I get to know them better. It helps me later when I'm going to write a letter of recommendation for them to be able to write real stuff. And so developing that as a part of your network. Get involved with organizations on your campus, and whether they're pre-med or pre-health organizations, or whether they're humanitarian organizations, or just fun things. Maybe you're going to be in a flag football league, or maybe you're going to be in the chess club, or maybe you're going to be in the Young Republicans or College Democrats or whatever they're called. You know, maybe you're going to be doing that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, very much get involved. And you know, that's one of the cool things about college campuses. There's so many neat things to be involved in. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things, you will never have this kind of chance again in your whole life.
Absolutely.
To be involved in some of this cool stuff. And so these are part of your network of people that are going to help you and support you and make you a better person academically, make you a better person personally, emotionally, all the facets of your life. You're going to be a better person for getting involved.
Yeah.
For some people, this is super easy. You know, some extroverted people, this is super easy. For some of you out there who are introverts, this is a much more difficult thing. And you recognize that, you know that, but you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah.
It's about growth, and that'd be an important thing.
Absolutely. And I think kind of having those near peers.
Yes.
A TA might be somebody who's on the exact same track you are, but they're just a couple of years ahead of you.
Exactly.
It's really valuable to get their insights on what they're going through and what you can do to anticipate what they're having to overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was something that was very key for me, at least during my undergrad and my graduate work.
Yeah.
Was knowing that there was somebody else who'd gone down that path.
Yeah. And why recreate the wheel when you can just look at somebody else and get their creation of the wheel and go, well, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I can use your wheel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if I could tack on one more element of a support network on there, online communities are really helpful.
Absolutely.
And I mean, now social media is just everywhere, and you have people on YouTube like ZDogMD. Mm-hmm. He has his videos, and he just shares his own thoughts about what it's like to be a physician. You have online communities like the TMDSAS Hub and the TMDSAS Non-Traditional Students group, where people just talk about issues that they're facing. There's a lot of value in that.
Yep.
By no means are online experiences going to replace face-to-face interactions, but it's important to see and engage with other people.
Absolutely.
In the process.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
All right.
And that I think that leads us to talking about, I sort of mentioned about getting involved in things. And this really leads us to the type of activities that maybe a freshman would want to be involved in on their campus, or outside their campus, really, too. As I said, there's a lot of things on your campus that are really going to be valuable in terms of personal growth and academic growth and in a variety of ways. Utilize those things. Explore your campus. Explore what's available. Whether it's academic preparation, tutoring, things like that, or whether it's fun stuff and personal things. Explore these things and get involved in organizations that appeal to you. Certainly, I would very much encourage pre-health students to get involved in pre-health organizations, whether it's AED on your campus or whether it's a pre-health club or the pre-dental club or there's a variety of these different things depending on your campus and the structure of stuff like that. But also get involved in humanitarian things. Whether it's Habitat for Humanity or it's your local club on your campus that deals with women's issues if you're into that, or children's issues if you're into that. Whatever appeals to you in a humanitarian way. There are a variety of ways to get involved on a campus to be able to do that. Now, I would caution you that what I think is most valuable is depth as opposed to breadth.
Yeah.
So it's much more valuable to get involved deeply in an organization or a few organizations than it is to superficially be involved in a huge number of organizations. Because what you want to show in an application later on is that you really have a deep involvement in something. Maybe you got involved in a club or organization at such a level that you became an officer. And that's going to lead you to talk about leadership skills that you developed in being an officer in that organization. So as opposed to wanting to be involved in everything at a superficial level, get involved in a limited number of things at a much deeper level. So always remember, it's about depth. It's not about breadth.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And also keep in your activities, going back to the journaling, idea, keep a list of these activities that you're involved in, what you're doing, and journaling about your experiences and how you're feeling about it. Even if it's just, I went on this Saturday and we built a house with Habitat for Humanity for 7 hours on that particular Saturday.
Right.
It's just going to remind you later on about what you did. I think there's a greater value in actually getting deeper into it than that, to be able to say, here's my feelings about what I did today, or whatever. But at a very limited basis, chart out what you're doing and keep that in a record so that you have it later on, and that'll be very helpful. But activities both on your college campus and in your community at large. There's a lot of things that you can be doing depending on where your college is located. Some colleges that are in smaller towns, rural areas, there are still things that you can be involved in. There are still organizations that help people in those areas. And then certainly in urban areas or suburban areas, there's a gazillion things that you can get involved in a variety of ways. So just be willing to explore, be willing to get involved. And even if it's fun things, always keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be about just pre-health stuff,
right,
or healthcare stuff.
Yeah.
It can be, just fun stuff. Part of the application is trying to figure out, are you a three-dimensional person? Do you have interests? Do you have, are you about things other than just going to school? And I remember as an interviewer, I would often ask students about, what do you do when you're not in class and you're not studying? And when students really grapple with that question, I'm like, is this,
it's just someone who checked all the boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in a band and you play the lead guitar, let's talk about that. Or you're in the orchestra, how long have you played the French horn? Tell me about that. Or whatever your deal is, let's talk about what you get out of that and how that helps you personally and stuff like that. So
I heard one of the deans say, if it's important to you, it's important to the admissions committee.
Absolutely.
Which I think is such a powerful statement.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. You will define what's important in some ways in the application and in your life, and you need to figure out what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Well, kind of looking ahead to what happens beyond activities.
Yeah, I think definitely it is really about, as a freshman, you do have to kind of think about what's in the future, what's ahead of me, and what's that going to look like, and whether it's volunteering or whether it's shadowing a veterinarian or research activities that you may want to participate in on your campus. Looking ahead is important. It's not just about the here and now. That's pretty important, the here and now, but it's also about planning out what's going to happen in the future and charting out, because some things that happen in the future, there's prerequisites to them now.
Yeah.
So if you want to do research activities, you got to start to get to know faculty members and research people now.
Exactly.
If you're going to want to be in a lab your junior year, you can't just all of a sudden pop out on your junior year and go, I want to be in your lab. And they're like, who are you?
Right.
So keep that in mind. Some of you are going to want to go to school during the summer between your freshman and sophomore year. You might want to think about that. Visit with your academic advisor. Can you take certain classes back home at a different institution during the summer? Is it okay to do that at a community college? Is it okay to, what classes might I want to take in the summer if I'm going to do that? So think about that in addition to what other things you might do during the summer. Yeah. Some of you out there are going to work during the summer. So think about that. Maybe you're going to want to do some shadowing while you're home with your local doctor. You're going to have to prepare to do that. You can't just show up in June and say, I want to shadow. You might need a couple of months in advance start preparing that doctor for doing that, the vet that you've dealt with for a long time. So kind of keep that in mind. You also might want to think in terms of the activities, particularly work-related, is keeping in mind, again, back to the journaling idea, is what am I getting out of this experience? If I'm working, what is this developing in me? Am I learning accountability? Am I learning how to be on time for work? If I'm a supervisor at work, let's say you work at a grocery store and you became the cashier supervisor or something, what am I learning out of that? How is that developing certain things in my personality or in my life that, could be beneficial later in terms of personal growth or whatever. So, or even how might that apply to my chosen profession? How might that be played out in a broader way? So, a lot of things can happen during the summer, even after your freshman year, that can really have an effect on you personally and on your application later.
Yeah, and it all comes back to personal reflection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Personal reflection is where meaning is created. And so you have to do that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to make t-shirts out of it.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, it seems like we're kind of winding down here.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our first year students as they embark on this journey?
I think it's a lot of times it's about positive thinking too. And as a freshman, it's often easy to look at the road ahead and go, oh my gosh, there's so much to do and it's going to take forever. And I can remember when I was a freshman in college years ago that I would sometimes look at the years that I had yet to come in college and it just looked like it was going to take forever. 4 years I'm going to be here. Oh my gosh, this is just overwhelming to me. But you can't do that. Number one, you have to recognize it happens in bites. Focus on what you're doing right now more than anything. If you focus too much on the future, you miss the now. If you don't focus enough on the future, then it can be detrimental because you're not prepared for it. So it's a balancing act between the two. But it is often about positive thinking. I can do this. There's a legacy of people that went ahead of me that did this, that are doing this now and have been successful. I can fashion myself after one of them. So keep a positive attitude, positive thinking. Keep positive thinking people in your life. Sometimes it's about keeping some people in your life and jettisoning other people from your life. If they're negative thinkers, if they're just not good people, if they're not having a positive impact on your life and on your outlook and on what you're doing, then maybe they shouldn't be in your life.
Yeah. And
those are hard choices to make, but positive thinking, positive actions, behaviors, these are really important. So keep that in mind as a freshman. Keep positive, work hard, get involved, always reflect on what you're doing, and I think you can be successful.
Solid action points.
There you go.
All right. Well, Dr. Wright, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about starting off on the right foot in your first year of college.
Absolutely.
On that roadmap to the application and beyond.
Absolutely, Enrique. It's a lot of fun to do these things, and good luck to all of you.
Dr. Wright brought up some excellent points about how freshmen can leverage their first year of college by learning how to transition into the college setting and learn deeply and develop a habit of personal reflection. Some of the key points that you want to take away from this episode are that your application to medical, dental, and veterinary school actually start on day one of your freshman year. Also, don't forget that your academics are important and you need to reevaluate your study skills. Remember, making good grades does not mean that you are learning. Learn how you can engage with the class and pay attention so that you can extract the information that you need. Dr. Wright also mentions that you want to take general chemistry as soon as possible. Now, certain universities might have different regulations on this, but you want to make sure that you're ready to go in the sequence that's required of you to be able to have all of the content covered by the time you start taking your entrance exams because the MCAT and the DAT are really intense with the higher level sciences. Also, remember that college is about growth and development. Find out where your growth opportunities are in your personal life and your professional or academic life. When thinking about the activities that you're engaged with, reflect on why you're doing these activities, and then think about what you're getting out of these activities. And don't forget that growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. Build your network by reaching out to your professors, TAs, and peers, join organizations that'll help you, and connect with your health professions advisor. It's really important that you get involved and start keeping a record of all of the activities that you're doing. You'll thank yourself later when you have to remember these in the application. Don't forget, the key behind all of this is the power of positive thinking. You've got a long road ahead of you, but it's important that you're heading in the right direction from day one. The TMDSAS podcast is a proud affiliate of the MedEd Media Network, your source for informational, inspirational, and motivational pre-med podcasts and more. Check us out at mededmedia.com. If you have any questions or comments about this episode of the podcast, join the conversation in our online communities at Facebook as the TMDSAS Hub, which is open to all applicants, current and future, and the TMDSAS Non-Traditional Applicants Group, which is open to all students that identify as non-traditional. Follow the link in the description of this episode to join the groups. On behalf of everyone here at TMDSAS, we'd like to wish all applicants, current and future, all the best of luck on your journey. That's all for this episode. We'll talk to you later.